the Bin Ladens did 9/11 in such a way as to convince people that it was someone else. Okay. Now, from this other group, this media, these people who call themselves truthers, all right, 9/11 truthers, you're mistaking a key point here. Okay. Now, people in the mainstream media have said that you guys are nutcases. Okay. There may be a few nutcases about it within you. Okay. But because you have this idea that you can go and find out any information, and we live in a media savvy age, and some of you are quite bright people, all right? There are individuals who are truthers who are quite bright, but you're confusing a volume of information, right, for accuracy, all right, and truth, all right? Now, truth cannot necessarily be known, so calling yourself a truth organisation, all right, rather than an investigative organisation is a bit contradictory. Another paradox in it is you're saying that the world has got all these neo-feudalist families who kill people's families, but yet you're going out and protesting and wearing t-shirts. Doesn't that sound a little bit silly to you? Doesn't it sound that you're being used by one of those groups? Okay. Now, because a false flag can be done to make it look like someone else did it, then obviously, if the Bin Ladens, being one of the probably the 6th or 7th most powerful feudalist family, would obviously know that, wouldn't they? And since they've been done joint operations with the CIA in Afghanistan, surely they would know the methods of the CIA, as was proven by the fact that they assassinated 6 CIA agents in Afghanistan. Alright? They may have infiltrated certain the networks within the CIA. Obviously they will do that. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to subvert our civilization to neo-feudalism. Now, Bush is what I call part of corrupted democracy. His family would like to be a neo-feudalist family, but they've still got this nagging suspicion that democracy is actually the better way to go. Why do you think that Bush believes this? Okay, he obviously said, well, this would be a great idea that if I was the dictator. That was his joke. Okay, and as much as he is against the US constitutional movement, so is the people who subverted the 9/11 truth movement, right? Because originally the families who were the victims, who have the most right to say whether there should be an investigation or not morally, all right, were only interested in how Al-Qaeda did that, okay? And they would have been told behind closed doors, all right? In the furtherness of time, I'm sure we will know, but we will only know and it will only happen that we know when the Bin Ladens and the Saudis are in some prison somewhere or hanging from the hangman's noose, and you're not going to find out by preventing that from happening by having a grassroots movement, right? This is the thing that is not understood by the 9/11 truth movement, is that you are being used as a grassroots movement by these people who in the Americas are known as end-timers, neocons, Zionist firsters, and in Britain as Thatcherites. Okay? Well, when you people in the 9/11 truth movement go and look at the Project for a New American Century, and also you look at that and you think that was written before 9/11, and you think, my God, they must have done it, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the case, okay? Because of course, if you've read it, then of course people who work for the Bin Ladens would have also read it, okay? And that is probably that hubris from that separate group of people that I just mentioned from the Bin Ladens is probably one of the reasons why it allowed the Bin Ladens to make it look like the democratic structures were behind such an operation, which of course they were not. Alright? Both those groups, for their different reasons, are competing against each other, these Thatcherites versus the Bin Ladens, but they both have the idea to try and subvert the democratic system, right, to decapitate the government and the people in the legal and university system and all the rest, okay? Now, what can be done to stop this? As I mentioned in many of my vids, that the problem is the petrodollar, okay? The petrodollar as the reserve currency of the world means that every time the Federal Reserve increases the amount of petrodollars into the system, okay, whether the value of the dollar goes up or not, is still not going to affect whether the Binladens and Saudi crime families make a profit, okay? Why? Because the Binladens and the Saudis control the oil supply. They control banks. They control construction companies. They control the oil servicing industries, i.e., as Britain, as Europe has got its version of Halliburton and America has got Halliburton, the Bin Ladens also have their own versions of Halliburton that service the equipment in the oil industry. How do we stop this? Well, firstly, we have to create a no man's land of non-connections. That is, people with no business or political reason, or indeed because the Bin Ladens use the radical Islamic movements, all right, as a recruiting ground. Okay, Al-Qaeda is not their only private army. They also had the AQ Khan network that was trying to get nuclear weapons. Okay, Al-Qaeda, Bin Laden didn't have the original idea for 9/11. Okay, that was done by another network that was affiliated to his from Afghanistan. All right, as is shown by the evidence of the trials of the 9/11 conspirators. Right, so 9/11 was a conspiracy, but it was a Bin Laden led conspiracy. Okay, that's the key point. All right, now to defeat this, we need a new banking system. We need a banking system that allows people to get credit and do loans between individuals. That would be microcredit. Okay, that way it cuts out the middleman. Every time you buy or sell something and it's imported or exported, that goes through a banking system and the bank takes its cut, okay? But it doesn't mean that the bankers did 9/11, not at all, right? Those are two separate issues and you're never going to get them solved by linking them together, okay? The US constitutional movement won't ever get into power if you keep linking 9/11 with the US constitutional movement, alright? And if you blame the EU, how does that help? The EU works on a social market, just like the United States wants, okay? And we want democracy and we want to defeat terrorism, okay? The European Union, together with an American, with a United States, okay, together would be a massive force against such feudalistic families. But why do they want to get rid of these democratic structures between us? Because they want to have their way with you, alright? Don't help them. Don't be connected with them. Don't have anything to do with them. By not being connected, alright, you're not creating reality, right? Because whenever you form a political or business connection with someone, you're forming reality. So check out my vid called Stoicism, the Roman Way of War versus Bin Laden Feudalism. It's a 3-part series on how the Romans defeated terrorism in their time and prevented feudalism from spreading throughout their society. Thank you. Hi, and another thing, Christian end-timers, Zionist, militaristic, chauvinist extremists and jihadists, alright? You believe that redemption comes through a cycle of constant destruction for your past sins, okay? Because you essentially believe that people are evil, alright? Well, by doing evil, this somehow redeems you, does it? Well, what that is called is suicidal nihilism. You're doing harm to yourselves and harm to everyone else. Stop screwing up this world for us and come over to the democratic, rational, Western way of doing things, where you have the scientific method which says, I am always wrong, but I'm trying to decrease that margin of error. Okay? Through democracy is the only way to exchange ideas, whereby both sides can come to a common synthesis of those ideas, which is greater than the original problem, and so therefore come to a democratic solution.